We continue with our election awareness program with James Marape, leader of Pangu and the Prime Minister.
Which is not for you and me only in Port Moresby, but also employed. Everyone must be rich. So I've set a national discourse, consistent with Vision 2050, that says by 2050 we must be a medium or middle income earning country. That's Somalia's gift to a nation in 2010. I've condensed that into a 10-year time frame consistent with the second decade of the Vision 2050. Let's look at ramping up those efforts for the next 10 years. And John, you said, what have you done in the last 3 years? I'll tell you this, under Pangu-led government, we've taken it back from the wrong hands that had greater propensity for self, for corporate friends, and individuals.
Pangu did have it for 10 years too, all under National Alliance, but Samare, Pangu, there was some that Pangu being Samare and all that, he was there for 10 years.
Actually 9 years, you're correct. So 2002 to 2007, yes, 2011. Yes. If I had time, John, to go into the period of 2002 to 2011, NA-led government did quite well in that period, and at the back of political stability. The first 5 years, when they took office in 2002, the economy was almost like what we took over in 2019. The economy and the macroeconomic fundamentals of our country were totally in shambles. Seg3, thankfully, when he arrived, he did quite well. He put in some fundamental macroeconomic reforms to reposition the country in the way it's supposed to go. And so when Somali government arrived, at the time in 2002, IMF didn't want to lend to PNG. World Bank didn't want to lend to PNG. We had few friends. There weren't too many economic activities. So the then Somali government embarked on what is called the export-driven strategy. And so in 5 years, they had the opportunity to reposition the country in the way it's supposed to go. And when the country gave them mandate again in 2007, they arrived in 2007, and in 2007 to 2011, they were able to build the country up. Physically, they may not have done much, but again, 8 and 9 years, it's not much to do many.
No.
They were starting to build the economy up. By the time they left government in 2011, we had almost over 900 million kina in surplus in the bank.
But another government comes in with other ideas and of course, so on and so forth. We go on like that, I think, Prime Minister. But I want to move on. I want to talk about Pangu, and I want to talk about Somare a little bit. The Grand Chiefs, Michael Thomas Somare. Do you have a soft spot for him? Every one of us have a soft spot for him. But you in particular, because you are now in charge of a political party that he formed and attained independence for this country. What do you think that you are carrying on from his legacy? And, God bless him, his soul is turning in his grave to say thank you, James Marape, for that.
Well, John, firstly, I will never be Somare. I'll never come close to him.
I don't think anybody can.
He is once in a millennium sort of leader that God gifted our country. He was able to mobilize a nation of 1,000 tribes into one sovereignty in 1975 under Pangu. That in itself is a feat of the highest standing.
Yeah.
Generation today must never underestimate what took place at 1975. It took an extraordinary leader, assisted by
team of
wise, extraordinary Papua New Guineans who had no experience of governing a country, who were called from the tribal settings into national leadership, yet in purity of their vision for our country, that defined our sovereignty today. So I can never be Somare. I'm walking in his shadows, and I am not even worthy to clinging to his shadows or walking in his shadows. He lived his time, served his purposes. I was privileged in my life coming to politics in 2007 to be appointed into his cabinet. I was privileged to sit in his cabinet and listen to the master at work, shepherding, counseling, guiding us. Somare was never about himself. He was truly, in Sepik they say Sana, in Melanesia, the Melanesian chief. He was in a houseman leadership. Sit down, talk, allow everyone to speak their mind, and take decisions that majority has agreed upon. They were imposing from our front as Prime Minister. So I served with him for 4 wonderful years as his Minister of Education. In fact, in one time I rose to be his deputy leader of National Alliance in the Highlands, NA branch, when Don Pollier was out in Kandep facing another re-election in a by-election. Okay. So I served Sumare very well with him. I was privileged to be close to him and to see the leadership traits that he possessed. Chief amongst them, as chief of Melanesia, or Melanesian chief, his character was about unifying and uniting everyone, and the different factions at play. No wonder why Pangu is all about Papua and New Guinea united. At 75, John, our young voters need to be reminded. There was the Motuguan movement in Rabaul. There was the Bougainville independence discussion in Bougainville. They want to be a separate nation. There was a Papuan Besana in the southern part of our country. Up from the mountains where you and me come from, Table, and the leaders felt that because we were only contacted with the outside world 10, 20 years ago, they felt we were not ready. So that huge range of spectrum, Sumare and Pangu were able to condense into one sovereignty, but more importantly, setting the fundamental structures of democracy, especially the 3 arms of government that is totally separated. More so the better arm, in my view, the judiciary, that is independent and separate from the legislature and the executive. So that clear separation of the 3 arms of government, especially judiciary, set down at 1975, defining our constitution, in my view, was the greatest gift Somare and the fathers of our country gifted us. Yeah. For now, our responsibility is to protect the sanctity of this democracy we have, okay, and the union of this nation of 1,000 tribes.
Okay, true. And unity is paramount, has been paramount at time of independence, given the fragmented tribes and how different we were. 47 years on now. Is unity intact or is it being threatened? And are politicians talking, living, and promoting unity, or are they becoming divisive?
John, I'm not here to
well, you are a politician.
criticize on my colleagues who are leading other parties, or also serving our country in the electorates and other parts of our country. But the way I see it, from where I see it today, the Bougainville issue is a test to our sovereignty. They voted for independence, by the way, 97.7%. And so we're working through to find a solution that is suitable for them, as well as for us. Hopefully we secure our sovereignty in the process. Our unity has been tested time in, time out by many events, more so politically induced events. Yeah. The 1997 Sandline crisis, for instance. The 10-year period of Bougainville crisis from 1988 to 1998, for instance. The 2011 march by then Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Bella Nama, to the courthouse, yeah, pushing
the Chief Justice
to the worst case ever in our nation's history, an attack of a sitting Chief Justice in his courtroom, testing the fundamental fabric of our democracy, the independence of our judiciary. But we've rebounded time in, time out. I can't see better citizens of a sovereign nation than the citizenships we have in Papua New Guinea. Their tolerance to political abuses, their tolerance to not being served what they deserve. Our people have carried this country for the last 46 years, going 47 now. And I just want to say thank you to every child of this country today, or every parent of this country who are living today, or every grandparents who passed on in this country. For the last 46 years, this unity is not maintained by politicians. this unity is really maintained by every Papua New Guinean. And we sometimes take this sort of thing for granted. That is why when I talk about PNG becoming rich, we need to grow the economic base. I fought hard to get 51% in Pogra. I fought hard to get more benefits from Piniang. In fact, of the entire pie in Piniang, we'll be getting 59% to 63% of the total pie in Piniang. These fights are to get back more from our resources so we could plow back more to the people who held this country together. I went to Manus and they sing a national anthem with pride. Sometimes I feel guilty. I don't have enough answer for the entire needs, but they sang with pride. I go to Wanimo, they sing with pride. I go to Kiunga, Daru, they sing with pride. I went to Bougainville. 2 weeks after they voted for independence, I went to Bougainville. They held Bougainville flag, the autonomous regional Bougainville flag and PNG flag, and they sang PNG national anthem. It brought me tears. So our people held this country together, despite many tests.
Is it, Prime Minister, could it be that because we are cushioned by our land, and we've decided to adopt a Westminster political system and way of doing business, that if it were the Australians would probably, and the New Zealanders would probably not be comfortable here. People are cushioned by their land. They know that, and I think they're too forgiving for the many mistakes that have occurred over the years, but some of them by public servants, some of them by politicians. Will you not agree to that?
Yeah,
so they have their land, they have their water, they have their gardens, they can go with that. So that is why they're not taking some of the issues up front like they would in Australia, New Zealand, America, England.
John, I agree with you. However, myself or any politicians that come into the 11th Parliament must not take our people's understanding and tolerance for granted.